Martin Popoff here from the Contrarians. Welcome back to another episode of Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion. This is the little show inside of our bigger show where we look at an old review of a classic album that was written when the album came out, and we see what the reviewer had to say about it, what sort of context we can glean about it. And, obviously these are albums that get massive overtime. We've talked about them to death, but here we are seeing somebody talk about it on the ground, a rock journalist from the day. And today we are looking at a review of Scorpions' Lovedrive from Melody Maker. This is by the great Harry Doherty. Sadly, we've lost Harry, but he was a big Thin Lizzy guy. He wrote a lot on Thin Lizzy, interviewed a lot of classic people, but he's a big legendary rock journalist from overseas, the UK. This is from March 10th, 1979. This review is sent in by the great Chris Jackson, who sent me a nice stack of these to go through. So thank you again, Chris. Scorpions' Lovedrive. Let's see what they have to say. I haven't seen this review, or at least I haven't seen it recently. I always wonder, every time I see one of these reviews, I go, dang, I hope I caught this and quoted from it in my Scorpions book, which is now actually getting updated again. We are updating that and we're going to put it out later in the year. But the current edition, I think I've got 4 copies left. If you want a copy of Wind of Change, the Scorpion story, I still have that at martinpopoff.com. Scorpions' Lovedrive. Let's see what Harry has to say about this, and we shall review this review. So we actually get a picture of Michael Schenker grinning away. And we even get a heading with this one, Scorpions Heavy Metal Sting. And Harry writes, now that the new wave has been institutionalized and tamed by the establishment, heavy metal is once more basking in a glorious and celebrated comeback, a feast that will presumably last until the next fad surfaces, when HM will promptly revert to its underground role. That's interesting. So early 1979. This is before the new wave of British heavy metal. It gets coined, I think, in May of 79. But things pick up, and then the new wave of British heavy metal is really going by the time we get to 1980. But he's saying new wave has been institutionalized and tamed by the establishment. So heavy metal already in Harry's mind and his detectors is coming back at this point, the spring of 1979. And punk has been kind of put aside. We're now into post-punk. We're into new wave. We're into new wave more so, I would say. New wave linked to pub rock in the UK, but more of a poppy new wave that's picking up in America as well. But punk is kind of well and over with at this point, right? We're moving into hardcore already at this point. But in the current blaze of recognition, look out for a powerful and, as far as Britain is concerned, relatively new heavy metal band, Scorpions. Not that new, but so he's saying these guys are going to make an assault on the UK, and the new wave of British heavy metal guys are going to love Scorpions. We know that. My interest in the band was provoked by the news that Michael Schenker, who played with Scorpions before joining UFO, was featured on this album. Approaching the album without any great expectations, I was soon drawn to the band's awesome hard rock strength. Indeed, far from being Schenker's baby, he plays solos on only 3 tracks. Scorpions are very much their own men and would undoubtedly have produced a killer album even if their wayward son had not returned. So he's now kind of learning this whole thing that Michael's just kind of like an incidental part of this record. A German band, Scorpions are led by Michael's brother Rudolf, who, apart from providing some hot licks on guitar himself, has a hand in writing all the material. There's another guitarist, Matthias Jabs, and an excellent singer in Klaus Meine, whose phrasing and pitch are as perfectly honed as any of his British counterparts. The rhythm section, Francis Buchholz, bass, and Herman Rarebell drums provide a sharp and spectacularly tight bass. The drum sound on the album is particularly superb, snapping like a whip and setting a furious pace for the rest of the band to work with. Yeah, it's a beautifully, beautifully recorded album. Everybody sounds really good on this. A lot of variety on this record. Super interesting album, right? They've been around for a couple of years, previously releasing material with little success on RCA. Don't ask me why they suddenly start producing the goods now. All I know is that Lovedrive is certainly one of the best heavy metal albums I've heard in yonks. Well, one of the reasons we know that they're changing is they've lost Uli John Roth at this point. Matthias Jabs comes in, and they're kind of like formulating this assault on America, on making a little more accessible heavy metal. Uli John Roth is known for being a little more psychedelic and Hendrixy, right? He's singing on some of the songs, right? So yeah, there's a big change afoot, and it's going to get even better with Animal Magnetism, Blackout, Love at First Sting. Okay, there are the usual influences: Zeppelin, Queen, Sabbath, UFO, predictably with Schenker's involvement, and there's even a trace of reggae on the Ragged. Is there anybody there? Yeah, so this is when Scorpions kind of discovers this reggae thing, and they do it a little bit, and they do it later on throughout the career sporadically. But yeah, Zeppelin, I don't really hear much Zeppelin. I hear a little bit of the joie de vivre and the creativity of Queen. You could possibly say you hear a little bit of Sabbath. UFO is kind of a nice comparative as well, right? Let's see. The band show a rare understanding of dynamics, which is typically evident on murderous and violent rockers like Loving You Sunday Morning, the classy instrumental Coast to Coast, and Can't Get Enough, but is more appreciated on the two slow tracks, Always Somewhere and Holiday, either of which you could slap on the turntable if you seek an alternative to Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven or Skinner's Freebird. Those are the sort of mellow moods they set. Yeah, it's interesting. Harry's like almost psyching himself out here, because when he talks about dynamics, what he means is this album has dynamics between the songs, not inside of the songs. So he mentions some murderous, violent rockers, then he mentions some completely quiet songs. That's where the dynamics is. The dynamics isn't inside of each song. The dynamics is between the songs, which is kind of the way Zeppelin does it, generally speaking, as well, right? Michael Schenker, I understand, has now rejoined the band, which should further enhance their reputation in the future. Heavy metal, as we all know, is of such a basic nature that it is beyond critical analysis of any depth. Some would argue that it doesn't reach the point where it's worthy of analysis, but there you go. It's either great, good, or downright lousy. This is the best. Wow. So he's not a big metal fan, Harry. He doesn't know this, but Michael is not going to be rejoining the band. Yeah, pretty cool. It sounds like he doesn't really know much about Scorpions, but he obviously notices quality when he sees it. So there you go. This has been another Reliving Old Reviews. Is a useless tool of confusion. That's it, the Pantera quote, right? You could comment below, let us know what you think of this. Hit the like button too. I always forget to do that, but like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you join our Patreon situation, you can be part of our panels. We do all these panel shows as well, where you could be, Marco sends out a list of the ideas, and if you like an idea and you feel like you know enough about it, you want to talk about it, you just join up our panels, and that's just by being part of our Patreon situation, which isn't very much per month. So there you go. Go play some of this fine Lovedrive.